From where the West begins in Fort Worth, Texas, to around the globe, you are listening to Talk in the Night. Later on in the show tonight, we're going to be joined by my guest, Chris Lee, as we talk about past lives and regression, past life regression and progression. But first, up on the Talk in the Night website under the story of the day, the evidence for reincarnation. Scientifically documented true stories that prove past lives are real. Reincarnation experience. There is evidence that at least some and possibly all people have previously existed in another body and lived another existence. When anomalous memories appear as personal recollections, those who experience them tend to believe that they stem from their own previous life. However, the memories that surface in the consciousness are not likely to be past life recollections. Instead, they appear to be experiences of reincarnation type. The latter are widespread as well. Stories suggestive of reincarnation are not limited whether geographically or culturally. They occur in all corners of the planet and among people of different cultures. And of course, you can read the rest of that story up on the Talk in the Night website, and also click on the link to read more of that. So let's get into that. And before we do, I want to mention next week I will be on the air with all veterans on the show. But let's get into that and much more with my guest, Chris Lee. So welcome to the show, Chris.
Good, I'm glad to be here. Thanks, Phil, for inviting me.
It's a pleasure having you on the show. So tell the listeners a little bit about you and what you do.
Okay. Well, what it is, Phil, is that I'm actually technically a clinical hypnotherapist, and I specialize in past life regression therapy. So it's quite a big title. And what happened was that I took training about 23 years ago to become a clinical hypnotherapist. And they do use hypnosis, of course, but it only dealt in current life. Now, I finished the program and got my degree, or my certificate actually, and I wasn't sure about past lives. The way my system works is you don't have to believe in it. But what happened was that when we did get a demonstration done at the class. There was 24 of us. So actually, I was teamed up. We're all partnered off with a medical doctor who got tired of giving people pills for the placebo effect. Yeah. And wanted to get further into hypnotherapy. And what happened was that somebody had asked the teacher, must have asked the teacher about past life, and there was 24 of us, and he said, anybody here like to see a past life demonstration? So 24 hands went up. And then he said, who wants to volunteer? So 24 hands came down real quickly. But it's not because of any fears or anything. It's just we all wanted to watch it rather than be in it. So we bantered around, and finally one of the girls volunteered. Now, what was interesting is, Phil, is I wasn't quite sure about it. I was raised very religious up until mid-teens before I realized that I had a choice of what I wanted to do and not get brainwashed. So what happened was I have an open mind. That's all I ask my clients. As long as if you're not too sure about it, you got an open mind. And what happened was that he regressed the student to about the age of about 10, and she gave the details because in this type of mode, I take people in. You have all the details. Your subconscious is very, 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 very accurate. It gives you details. So she said she was about 10. It was the 1930s, playing on as a boy, playing on train tracks. I'm sure you've played train track too.
Yeah.
And even in the 30s, they did have electric switches, and the boy got his foot caught in the switch, and unfortunately, the train came along and ran him over. So I do actually mention this in my talk, which I do, and you get a lot of reaction like, "Oh no!" But I said, "Hey, don't worry, he came back." But anyhow, what happened? I went, "Wow, this is interesting," because I wasn't sure, but whoa, I made some notes. And then he had her go to a different past life where she saw herself as a female, mid-40s, in London in 1942. And as we're all well aware, that's during World War II. And it was during a bombing raid. And so I went, wow, interesting. But the real big thing that got me into past life regression therapy, Phil, was that the next day when she came into class, she said, "Hey, guys, I've always wondered why I hated trains and thunder." And I went, whoa. And a lot of the people did. Then she said the thing that really got me into this was she said, "It's gone. They don't bother me." One session and one seeing how it works. And that's how I do it too, because that's how it works. Once you know what something's bothering you and it's not really anything to be worried about or concerned, you let it go. So I ended up that I finished my program, started up my practice, and I used the current life. This is what you get trained in clinical hypnotherapy. Take people back, to why they hated their mother or something, which really is totally irrelevant to anything. And I found that using current life with my clients was only about, I keep a lot of stats, I'm very mathematical, about 25% effective, which is not very good. So I started thinking I should take some time and read further about this past life, because that girl got rid of her stuff in one session. So I started practicing. There's lots of writers and people that get into it. There's authors like Brian Weiss and Michael Newton, Life Between Lives, that type of thing. So I started reading them and then practicing with to have a few volunteers that I worked with. And I found, whoa, that really worked. And then that worked and that worked. So I decided to use past life therapy with my clients. And I found that using it, the effectiveness was now about 90%. Now, I don't know about you, but that's a big change. Yeah. So, but I did find out that there's a disadvantage, about 90, 95. There's a disadvantage of being 90% effective. What do you think it might be?
People think you're 100% correct, or at least that's what I get from the being able to read people and everything like that. Because I tell people, no matter how good the psychic is never going to be 100% right. It just ain't going to happen.
Mm-hmm. The thing that actually was kind of funny is that I get people in talk say, "Oh, there's still 10%," and actually the disadvantage is that you don't have too many repeat customers.
Well,
because when you get rid of their fear and phobia in one session, they don't come back. But you got to remember is that even if you don't get repeat customers, unless they have, well, I do get some that come back 2 or 3 times because they have like 30 or 40 different concerns and problems. But what happened is that they do refer people. And what percentage of the world do you really think have aches, pains, fears, phobias, debilitating emotions? I would say quite a few. High percentage. So, and what happened was then after I found out, I wiped out that town because it wasn't a big town. It didn't take long to see everybody. So I went off to England for a while. And what I did, though, what I normally do is I do my talk, and this is what I'm doing a bit of it tonight with you, is that I found that groups don't work well. I do groups for my talk so that they will understand what it's about and what have you. Because you see, I know it's going to be hard for your people out there to catch on, but people have a fear of hypnosis. Have you ever heard of that?
I've seen it in like stage show hypnotists. People are like, "No, I don't want to go up there. I don't want to be made a fool of," and stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, that's where I find that I've found that by doing my talk, and I've now my talk is generally a couple hours, and I've now done it about 220 times in 6 countries. And I keep a lot of stats, as I said, mathematical. I have found that the percentage of people that book a one-on-one session, that's what I do. I do the talk, and I stay, when I go on tour, I'll stay a few days for anybody wanting to do one-on-ones. The percentage of people that book a session from my talk is about 84%. That's pretty high. But before the talk, unless I've been there before, it's generally like 5%. Because people have that fear. So one of the biggest things I explain to people is that hypnosis is 100% self-hypnosis. Nobody can hypnotize you. It's just television. People watch too much television. So I start off with trying to use a bit of logic, and I'll say, here, show of hands, how many people here have ever been hypnotized? And do you think a big percentage would put their hands up?
Probably not.
That's correct, yes. And then I'll say, anybody here, or did anybody realize, or people don't realize that you're in hypnosis 5 to 20 times per day. And then you watch the audience go, huh? Then I'll say, here's some examples. Has anybody ever remember high school? No, some people are kind of old and they go, And then I'll say, do you ever have a boring subject and you daydreamed? How about yourself? Did you ever daydream through some of the school subjects?
Sometimes. But of course, I was the kind of person that was bored with the classes. It just wasn't. It wasn't challenging enough.
Yeah.
Just to give you an example, I mean, in high school, I actually had to teach my math teacher how to do algebra, and she went to school for math. It's like,
wow.
How did that happen?
Mm-hmm.
I ended up having to teach the class.
So you're mathematical, yeah. But what I explain to people that when you're daydreaming, you're in hypnosis. And people go, huh? Because see, all hypnosis is, Phil, as I'm sure you probably know, is just deep relaxation. Yeah. You slow down your conscious part of your mind. And so when you're daydreaming, that's easy for you to, suddenly start picturing a beach or, then seeing yourself on the beach and all kinds of stuff, pulling up old memories or stuff could be mixed up. But the point I'm making, though, is that, first of all, do you disappear? There's no disappearing. There's no la-la land. Nobody floats away. Because you have to sort of keep your eye open in case the teacher catches you or something, and sort of thing. And you don't have to lay down either. That's another farce. And when you're doing hypnosis, or especially what I do, you sit in a chair. You don't fall off. That's where people think you're going to fall off. But I also say, has anybody here ever watched a movie or a TV so intently, or reading a book so intently you don't hear people talking to you? And most people put their hands up, and I'll say, that's hypnosis. Single focus concentration. You slow down and you're just concentrating on what you're reading. Yeah. And then
I do that with meditation. Like I would go out in the country and just focus on the sounds of like 3 different things, and then slowly cut away the sounds to where I'm only hearing one, and then maybe none.
That's hypnosis. Meditation is hypnosis too, because remember, deep relaxation. In fact, some people even say have seen some past lives while they're in meditation, but it'll just be fleeting ones or happy scenes. But the biggest thing to prove to people that they've been in hypnosis, I say, anybody here slept in the last 24 hours? Yeah. And I'm sure everybody does. Well, that's the deepest relaxation you can get. You're in hypnosis. So then I say, now, who's been hypnotized? So they all have to put their hand up. And they start to realize that, maybe this isn't fearful. And the biggest one to explain to them is just what you mentioned about stage productions. Yeah. You see, the whole thing is called entertainment. That's what television is. Television isn't always the most accurate thing. But one thing I point out is that when people go up on stage, there's a law against kidnapping, dragging people up, or forcing them to go up on stage. It's called voluntary. Yeah. There's the first part. Now, the hypnotist there's about 10% of the world are what we call a somnambulistic. What it means is that they're already like relaxing and acting silly and showing off a bit. And so it doesn't take them long to come up and volunteer. Because when you're on the stage in a production, Phil, you are totally aware of everything you're doing, but you're acting the age of 7 or 8 or younger. That's what slows you down. And when you're 7 or 8 or younger, how hard is it for you to pretend you're, playing musical instruments that aren't there and bark like a dog? Not very hard to do. But the big thing also to prove how it's all voluntary is because the hypnotist likes to get, quite a lot of people, 20 if you can. Because during the production, if you really watched it closely, he does send people off, not all at once, but here, there, every once in a while. And I used my logic there for my people in the audience and say, if they're under his control, why does he have to send some of them off? And the answer is simple, is they're acting like a kid, but kids can get bored.
Yeah.
So if they're not acting silly and bounce around like the rest of the crowd, it makes his show look kind of not quite a bit lame. So he's
everything like that.
Yeah. So he sends them off and keeps the good ones.
I've been up on one of those stages before, but I just felt that it didn't work for me. But I mean, I understand what you're saying about everybody can be hypnotized by like meditation and stuff like that. I understand that, but it's just that the stage hypnotist just didn't work for me. I mean, when he told me to raise my left hand, I rose my right hand. I was like, I'm bored with this.
Yeah. No, a lot of people don't stay up. Like, they'll come up, basically he'll do sort of a thing where you lock your hands out in the crowd and you say, and you'll wait for the ones that can't to separate their hands and then say, come on up and I'll release your hands. And it's not hard to do, but then he'll say, then he says, while you're here, do you want to stay up? So they still have that choice. So the ones that do stay up are the ones that be entertaining. So it is entertainment and it is nothing, I don't do those, but I do know how that works. So that's what I do. So when I do groups, again, that's why I don't do a workshop where I do have them slow down, see things, is because, again, a lot of people have a fear. They're not going to come at all and realize that it's really a lot of fun and it's actually quite productive and effective. Because, again, my system gets rid of aches, pains, persistent aches, pains, fears, phobias, that type of stuff.
Yeah, well, I know all about pains. I mean, I got major arthritis all up and down my spine, and everything like that from past injuries from my days in the military and stuff, and stupid stuff that I did as a younger kid. But I've learned to deal with it, and of course, meditation helps relieve the pain because the medication doesn't seem to work anymore. No,
and you don't really need it. You see, my whole system, Phil, it's simply, I call it cause and effect. If you ever had stress, Phil?
Yeah.
Did you ever get a headache from it?
I don't know if I have or not, but I'm pretty sure I have.
Yeah. Well, most people do get what they call a stress headache, And what happens is they often take a painkiller, like an aspirin or that kind of thing, and usually they are quite effective. It gets rid of the pain. Does it get rid of the cause, which is the stress? Of course not. It's the Band-Aid. It's just the cover. That's why a lot of people, they take medicines, things pop back, they take therapy, pops back, is because it's just working on the effect, not the cause. And my system is seeing the cause. What happens is that you don't have to believe, as I mentioned, in past life, but as long as you have an open mind. So what happens is, and it's interesting, is that unfortunately, it's more female that will actually do sessions than males, because us males were a bit more, skeptical, and it doesn't make sense. But are males exempt from aches, pains, fears, and phobias? Of course not. So that's why I quite strongly in my talks stress that you can think it's your imagination. You can think you made it up. And if the pain and the ache and all that disappear, which they will, does it really matter?
Yeah, I mean,
No.
it's all basically in your mind, basically. Because I know a lot of stuff that I've, like, when I do cleansing of homes, or I used to, for the darker energy, and now I go into a location showing no fear whatsoever, and of course that gets rid of the thing, because these things know that they can't scare me. So I think what I've done, because of all the meditation that I've done, that it is worked out all the fear in my life.
Yeah.
But then again, I was a crazy young kid too. I would, as a kid, at like 7 years old, I would climb to top of a 12-foot ladder, rock it back and forth until it fell.
Yeah. Well, actually interesting too. You don't have that concern, but one of the things I do find with fears and phobias, and I've actually worked with, in fact, in my second book, my book series is called Life in the Fast Lane. You saw that, but they let the clients know. Sort of a little bit cutesy thing about Life in the Fast Lane, and it's just case histories. But on fears and phobias, I've now worked with about 131 different types of fears and phobias, and a lot of them are ones of blimps and stuff like that. But the four most common fears. What do you think the four most common fears are?
Probably arachnophobia would be one.
No,
fear
not that high. Height is number one. Yeah.
Now, I still get a little woozy when I look down on heights, but it doesn't really actually scare me.
No.
Let's see. Trying to think of some other fears.
Hopefully your people listening will be trying to figure them out too.
Yeah, because I know one person in the chat room has got a fear of spiders, like I said, arachnophobia.
Yeah, it's there, but it's not that high. It's not as high. I'll tell you, the four top fears, those people are listening, here they come. Number one is heights. Number two is actually fear of success, self-sabotage. Number three is claustrophobia. And number four is fear of deep water, drowning, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Now, the way my system works is you hear people say, well, you can get over it by facing your fears. Well, that's a load of crap. That's like taking an aspirin. And a good example is I worked with one client, a male client, and one of the things, like when the people come in for a session, I have them write out a list of the odds and ends that they want me to take a look at. Cause I don't always cover them, all of them, but in a general session I can take care of 2 to 7 different things. But he had a fear of heights down. I said, how long have you had that? And he says, well, most of my life, he said. But he said, I decided last year to face my fears, so I went skydiving. And I said, wow, that would certainly be a way of facing your fears. And I said, did it work? And he said, sheepishly, I still can't climb ladders. So obviously it didn't work. In the session, I got rid of it, and he no longer has that fear. I'll explain in a bit how that works, but just want to go over a few things. But yeah, fear of success is a very popular one. There's so many people that I've worked with that they get close to maybe getting successful, and then they'll start doing self-sabotage. They'll start making stupid decisions or not feel comfortable and that type of thing. Next thing you know, they have lost it or just not successful as they'd like to.
Yeah. I admit I'm guilty of that myself. And of course, I'm a Capricorn, so Capricorns strive for success. But it hasn't held me back. It's just a learning. I take it as a learning experience.
That's good. Well, here's how my system really works. First of all, when I'm doing my talk, I'll make a profound statement, and I'll say to everybody, has anybody here heard of the word imagination? And everybody's hand goes up. Then I'll say quite loudly, and looking at everybody, says, there's no such thing as imagination. And the look on people's faces like, well, so I always do an example. So explain. So I have everybody close their eyes. I say, close your eyes for a couple minutes. Then I'll say to them, everybody now in your mind's eye, either see or sense. Now, most people actually are, when they close their eyes, are visual, but not all. So that's why I say see or sense, because you can sense and it'll still work. Like a blind person doesn't have to see you to know you're there. They could hear you, kick you or something. So I say see or sense a bright yellow, sour, juicy lemon. And anybody out there that's listening, try it right now. Close your eyes. In your mind's eye, see or sense or picture a bright, sour, juicy, yellow lemon. And then see yourself cutting it up into pieces. Then take a bite of one of those pieces of sour, juicy lemon, chewing it, swallowing it. And then I'll say, let's try another piece. There's still lots of lemon. One more piece of that sour, juicy lemon. Now, if I have a group, say, of 20 people, about 10 or 12 of them are making faces at me already. They're winching up, they're sour, that sour taste. They can taste it. 2 or 3, maybe a bunch are still a bit polite. But out of 20 people, 17 will generally either taste it or their mouth will water. There's always a few people, but I can always find them food. In fact, one person said, didn't work. My mouth didn't water. I said, what's your favorite food? And she said, pumpkin pie. So I said, close your eyes. So we all stared at her. I says, picture getting a piece of warm pumpkin pie with whipped cream on it. Now, she had come with another lady, and the lady next to her was passing her tissue because she was wiping her face, her mouth, because it was watering. So you can always water. But the point I'm making to people is that I say your mouth's watering. That means your body's reacting, and they all agree to that. Then I'll say, wait a minute, there's no lemon in your mouth. Why would your body react to a lemon taste and there's not a lemon there? It's because it's reacting to a memory. It is simple. If you've never in your life, I guarantee people 100%, if you've never in your life tasted a lemon, you'll never have your mouth water. Your mouth is watering to a memory. You've had one. You can't make it up. So therefore, there's no imagination. You can't imagine what a lemon would taste like if you've never tasted it.
Yeah, I've tasted lemons. It's like, Yeah.
So there's where I go with that imagination. Now, the way this system works is that I often draw a diagram in my talk to show a picture of how the mind works. Not the brain. There's no left brain, right brain when I'm talking. It's called subconscious and conscious. I'm sure you've heard of that.
Yeah.
Now, your conscious part of your mind, Phil, is only about 5% of the mind. So obviously 95% is your subconscious. Your conscious part of your mind is actually just a processor. It's never been to a past life, hasn't got a clue about past lives. But it has an ego problem, likes to think it's clever. And the subconscious, they've already, I like clipping stuff off the internet, and they showed something there where the capacity of the human mind, you could build libraries all the way up to the moon and still go past it. It is amazing. Something like the amount of room is unfathomable.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm surprised some of the knowledge that I hold still in my brain from even when I was real young.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no. I can take you back, Phil. If we were doing a session in your subconscious, I can take you back and you could watch yourself being born. That memory's in there. Now, at first, when I first started doing this, using male logic, I thought people, when they're watching the past life, they're looking through the eyes like a camera. And I was surprised when people started saying something. Said, I'm watching myself. And I'm going, how do you do that? And then I realized we have energy in us, but it also comes out. It's around us. Like, you remember that expression where you can walk into a room, or not expression, but situation where you can walk into a room, you could cut the tension with a knife. Or somebody with charisma walks by and you just go, whoa, you just feel it, because you do feel it. And it's also easily to prove is that's how they do MRIs. They can measure your brain brain
one
frequency.
Of those coming up on the 17th of this month, or actually 2 of them.
Oh yeah. Well, we should be doing something off camera later on and get rid of that for you. But anyhow, what I was leading to is that
I have no fear of it. It's just got two of them coming.
Yeah. Well, I don't mean the fear of, just necessity. Get rid of the necessity. Yeah. But anyhow, so like I said, I could show how that actually worked. Is that many years ago I had a client that wanted to see where she was when she was about being born, because she wondered why her older sister, she looked like her older sister more than she looked like her own mother. Turned out the older sister was her mother, because back in the olden days that often happened. Grandma became mom, sort of thing. I also had another one that she was adopted, and she really wanted to know what her actual birthday was, and the one she'd been celebrating was actually about 7 days out, because subconscious showed her the exact date and sort of thing. So it comes in handy. But anyhow, backing up.
I want to mention real quick that
sure.
We're at the commercial break. But sure. We'll be right back with my guest, Chris Lee, as we talk about past lives and how to bring out those past lives and get rid of the fears and everything else. We'll be right back. Are you a ghost hunter or paranormal enthusiast and need equipment to go out and investigate locations that have spirit activity? Well, GhostStop.com has all the equipment that you will need. They have a Boo Buddy ghost hunting kit for $169.95, or how about a Keep Calm and Ghost Hunt t-shirt for $19.95. Click on the banner ad at the top of the Talking Tonight website and get shopping today. GhostStop.com, your one-stop shop for all your ghost hunting needs. Do you have a paranormal team? Are you a small-time author? Do you have a radio show that you would like to promote? Is there anything that you would like to get the word out there about but don't have a big budget? Well, Talking Tonight has an opportunity for you to sponsor the show without breaking your wallet. Contact the show at talkingthenight@outlook.com or on the show's website or Facebook page for more details. Do you think you have a haunted or cursed object? Well, Nicole Gaspard does, and in her book Haunted Vessels and Cursed Objects, she talks about her continued paranormal and supernatural ghost encounters, haunted dolls, and other items that are supposed to be haunted or cursed. Pick up your copy today on Amazon.com.
You keep on crying to me, saying you're gonna leave. Well, now if you're gonna go, darling, I'll get the door. Why should I change myself? Why should I change for you? No, I will not lay down. I am not chained to you. And I am what I am.
Okay, and we are back with my guest Chris Lee as we talk about past lives and things like getting rid of phobias, and that's what we were talking about during the break, or not during the break, but before the break, I should say.
Yeah.
We were talking about it a little bit during the break, but...
I know. once I get rolling, I love talking about all the different examples I've done. But just to finish about the conscious being a processor, 5% of your mind, the subconscious stores everything, every single second of every past life you've had. Now, just to explain, when I do work with a person that's not quite sure about past lives, I'll just simply say, rather than let your subconscious take you back to the past life as the cause of, say the pain in your right shoulder you've had for 20 years, I'll just say let your subconscious show you the cause of why you still have that. And 99% of the time, they're going to see themselves maybe riding a horse with armor on and in a battle, and they just got their arm chopped off. And I'll say which, and I never lead. I don't say, was it the left one or whatever. I'll say which one, and I know 100% it's the left one because that's where they're being affected from. Yeah. Then I'll simply say to them, and when they're watching it, there is no fear. There's no, it's like watching a good movie without getting, like a good movie. So what happened was, then I'll say to them, now move your arm around. Now, the big thing I love about doing my job, and I've done this for years, I've seen thousands and thousands of past lives, is I never know where they're going to go, but I do know that his arm is going to be moving quite nicely. It's the look on their face. Their eyes are closed because it's a lot easier for them to see the details without being distracted by, what's on the wall or something. But the look on their face when they move that arm around. A lady in New Zealand a couple years ago, I did some stuff over there, in Australia too. She was scheduled for an operation a month later on from the time I saw her, and she couldn't raise her right arm up more than parallel to the ground, sort of straight out there. When she left, she was laughing and trying to touch the lights. She also canceled her operation because it was gone. It's all it is past life pains and aches. So when, like I said, your subconscious holds tons of stuff. But what happened is that a way of explaining how I work is that my system is, I've explained about no imagination, but my system works on what I call the unknown noise. Now, here's
I was going to ask you about your unique method that you use during hypnotism.
Yeah. Well, what it's about is that here's a word picture everybody that's listening can do. You don't have to close your eyes for this one. Is just, let's pretend that you live alone. It's a dark, spooky, windy night and the wind's howling, okay?
That's my kind of night.
In the audience, usually somebody howls. So I do a lot of humor when I do my talk because humor sinks in better than, I don't do lectures. I hate that. Lectures are like school or something. I do a bit of humor, sinks in. But so the wind's howling. In the middle of the night, there's a crash, and you jump up and go, what the is that? I'm being polite there. And you hear it again, and you go, oh, it's just the wind blowing a branch against the window. Now, unless it's going to break, I don't know about you, but I'd go back to sleep. Later that night, there's another crash, a big, loud one, and you wake up and go, what the? And then you hear it again, you go, what's that? I don't know. I've never heard that one before. That's when we sort of, like, everything, we start to babble on somebody coming to kill you, boogeyman, that type of thing. And unless we check it out, a lot of people would pull up, do like they did in as a kid, they'd pull up your bulletproof covers and try and get some sleep, but it doesn't work. It's still bugging you. Next morning, you're going out the door, and it's still windy, and you hear that noise, and you look to the left, and you see a garbage can blowing around, and it happens to be that there's a lot of brick and stone and stuff, and you realize it's a garbage can. So you're going to make a profound statement plus some adjectives about the neighbor, and that is, it's a garbage can. Now, next night, you're in bed, another dark, spooky, windy night. The wind's howling again. Garbage cans blow over, and there's a 50-50 chance now you don't even wake up. But if you do, you'll make that same profound statement again. Now, it's a garbage can. And the stupid neighbor. Now, there is a point here, Phil. The noise is the same both nights, isn't it?
Yep.
Why doesn't it bother you on the second night?
Because you already know what's causing
Perfect.
it.
Yes. We keep it simple. I get people go, well, you got a memory, and you go, nah, I said, you just know what it is. Keep it simple. I keep everything simple. I call things stuff. I don't like big words. But the difference is that you know what it is. Now, unless you feel the garbage can is coming to kill you, you would let it go. But Here's the difference between doing it yourself and somebody telling you. Somebody saying, oh, you're a gypsy. Oh, Phil, it's probably just a garbage can. And now, I don't know about you, but the next night when I hear it, I'm going to go, does that guy really know what the heck he's talking about? He's never been here. So I will very carefully look out the window. It's a garbage can. And did they have to be hugging the garbage can to know it's a garbage can? Did somebody have to hit you with it? You just had to see it.
Yeah.
That's how, because we are an animal, like to see to believe. So I can't tell you, for two reasons, what you did in past life. One is that I don't know what you did in past life. And the second is it wouldn't help you. You see it, you let it go. That's how simple this works. So when you see that you'd fallen off a cliff in a past life, like the wind, there was a big storm and you got blown off and you bounced down the mountain, and you realize that's a different life. That's nothing to do with this life. And now, why does this work? I get people that ask me all these heavy questions like, why about this and soul groups and all that kind of stuff. I have a very good answer. It's called, I don't know. But I do know that I can help you get rid of your aches, pains, fears, and phobias, which gives you a better quality of life. For example, if you had your life lesson. Now, one thing about it, too, is that, and almost everybody will agree in the group, is that we apparently are here for lessons. I'm sure you heard that. Mm-hmm. And what happens is that, let's say your life lesson was to save a family that lived on a mountain. And you brought in from a different past life an extreme fear of heights, which you did not have to bring in, but you did. You're not going to probably save that family, are you?
Probably not. I mean,
no, they're going to be toast.
Yeah. Now, like me, I'm Wiccan, so I do believe in like reincarnation and everything like that.
Sure.
Wiccans believe we go to a place called the Summerland, where we go there and reflect on what happened in that past life before moving on to the next.
Okay, it sounds. Is that also like Buddhist or something, or?
Kind of. I mean,
I'm not sure.
It's all kind of like kind of mixture of Buddhist, Native American folklore, stuff like that. But it all dates back to the Druids back in Scotland and Ireland and stuff like that.
Yeah, I get. Yeah, my mom's from Edinburgh, so yes, we're going to get back to Scotland again next year and see some more of the castles, and I love castles.
Yeah, I got to get over there one of these times. I've been over to Europe, but the closest I've been is Gibraltar and everything like that. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. You can pick up energy from like psychometry. I'm sure you've heard of that. Or you can hold an item from somebody, or a lot of people can do this, and you just get a feeling or the energy from that item. So there's lots of different things that you can actually practice on too. Now, what it's about too is, again, when you know what it is, it doesn't bother you. Now, what happened is that I do get, at the end of my talk, I go over a lot of different things which I cover. And then I say, people come with a list of odds and sods. Now, I'm talking about persistent. Like if you if you break your arm, within 7 weeks, the bone should be mended and you're fine. And if it doesn't bother you, then that wasn't a past life. But if that pain stays there for the next 10 years, you've triggered something. There's lots of different stuff. Now, one of my longest... a person that had a pain for the longest time was a lady in Australia. When I saw her, she was 58, and she had a pain just behind her left knee for 55 years, constant. Not a major one, didn't need a crutch or anything, but a little bit of a limp and just annoying. And it was always there. Went to all kinds of doctors and what therapies, etc. Never changed. So I thought, hey, there's a good challenge, because this is sort of like, it's actually in one of my books, is that I said in hypnosis, slow it down. I said, let your subconscious take you back to the past life, that's the cause of the pain in your left knee. Now, within moments, she saw herself. What I do is ask questions. I say, are you indoors or outdoors? And she said, indoors. And in a house or a building. She said, a building. She says, what kind of building? She said, it's a hospital. And I said, what year is this in? And she paused and said, 1802. The amazing thing, Phil, is your subconscious, whatever it gives you, it's there. Because if you get people that, now I do say if you want to, you can think you made it up, because I want you to get rid of your aches and pains. And if that's the only way, pretend you made it up. But I remind people that think they made it up is that, and I'm trying to be polite, is we're not bright enough. Yeah. Because the conscious part of your mind is a processor. Never been to a past life. It doesn't have memory. It gets it from the subconscious. So if it's going to say, if the conscious thinks I'm going to say 1802, just to
throw out a random number.
Yeah. Well, where do you think it got it from? It got it from the subconscious. The subconscious doesn't play games. It's very literal. It would give it the correct number anyways. So you can think you made it up. It'll be the right answer. But either way, so 1802. And I said, what country is this in? And within a moment, she goes, England. And I said, what's going on? She said, what happened is it's a polio ward. And back in the old days, of course, they didn't know what to do with polio. It was also very contagious. So they used to just have wards in a hospital, put the people in it with the polio, and just wait till they died. Yeah. Turned out she was watching herself. She was a 3-year-old girl and laying on a bed in a mini bedded room, big, like it wasn't private rooms. And she had polio in her left knee. And what they had done was they raised her leg up a bit, a little pulley to try and take some of the pain out or something. But because she was only 3 and growing and had this from birth, her leg was starting to bend downward at the knee, causing the pain behind the left knee. Yes. So when we finished the session, I said to the lady, stand up and move around. She said, it's gone. 55 years. Now, I was just in touch with her about a week ago, and she said never came back. And this was 2015, so that's over 3 years. Never came back. And also, just on a little on the side, is that you can also, through past lives, improve your talents. She was an artist at the time, and I took her back to a past life that she was very good at art. And she saw what she did there, and it's like in your subconscious, you didn't know about it, but once you see it, you can make use of it for some reason. And she now can't keep up to the business with digital art and also her photography. So it can go 2 different directions. But 55 years. Now the amazing thing is that she got this when she was 3 years old in her current life. The girl in that hospital died at 3. And the lady in her current life, she actually died for a few minutes. Her heart actually stopped, and luckily, somebody in the room or at the house at the time was a nurse or doctor, got her going and quickly took her out. So she was dead for a few minutes, around the same age as the one that died in that other life. Coincidence? Don't know. But the pain is still gone. So I get this all the time. And it's an amazing thing. So back to where the guy that thinks that maybe he made it up, but he sees himself as like a soldier in armor, got his arm cut off and the pain's gone. Again, it doesn't matter. It still works. So this is a modality that I do that requires no medicine, no operations, and no ongoing therapy. It's gone. It's gone.
Yeah, because I know like one time I talked about seeing my past life in a mirror and stuff like that via scrying. I was in Old West clothing and stuff like that. I was more of like a gunslinger and stuff like that. And it brought back memories of that. Plus, I always had that fascination with the Wild West and everything like that. So,
of course.
That and the Civil War, those are one of my favorite topics in history.
Yeah, we bring in what we did in past lives, especially if they're more fun. it's like when people think your parents, raise you and you should, like I have 3 younger brothers, no sisters, and we all have different likes, dislikes, talents and stuff like that. So nothing to do with your upbringing. What have you? Like my next younger brother, he loved toy soldiers. Every Christmas had to get toy soldiers. And back in the old days, they didn't have nice soft plastic. They had metal. And if you ever go to the bathroom in the middle of the night in the dark and step on those, they're not very fun. And you want to have a little chat, have a chat with your brother about where you put them. Turned out, and I did a session with him, is that he had been in World War I and World War II as soldiers. And ironically also, little aside, a lot of people don't realize, headaches, there's 2 types of headaches. There's stress headaches and there's migraines. Migraines are past life. That is why you take a pill, and I can't believe the cost of what these pills, I don't take pills, I haven't taken for decades, but one of my clients actually emailed me some years ago and said, it's been a year and a half, she said, since I had a session with you, and I just realized now, she said, I haven't had a migraine. Sometimes we see you don't always notice something unless it comes back. She hadn't thought of it till one of her friends was complaining about it and how much, and her friend was paying, I think, if I recall, between $25 and $50 for a migraine pill, and they must have gold in them because why? And do they work? They're not a cure. They're just numbing. It's just numbing.
Basically like a placebo and everything like that. If you think it's going to work, it's going to work.
But it'll still come back. But again, it can still come back. I mean, you can numb it. You can actually learn pain control. I can teach that. So, like I don't to get the needle for the dentistry because I hate my lip hanging down for 10 hours after. So, but the migraines. So what happened was roughly is that he had a migraine essentially about the age of 13. He was the only one in the family, and turned out that when I said let's take care of your concern, he saw himself as a soldier in World War I, World War II, and both times he got shot. Actually, exactly, it was at the first day. World War I, he was a underage soldier, British soldier, and they got sent to France. He wanted to join up and lied about his age. And he'd been in the trenches that first day, and nothing. It was quiet. And he said, there's nothing going on. And he put his head up, and I went, oh, no, because I knew what was happening. He got shot right through the head because each side would keep a sniper for anybody stupid enough to look over the edges during quiet time. And then World War II, because I said, is anything else? He said, yeah, World War II, another war. He was in the Dieppe raid, Normandy raid. Yeah. And he was in the landing craft, and he was one of the first soldiers off. And guess what happened to him? Yes, he got shot through the head. But what really got it figured out is I said, where did you get shot? And he said, in those wars, he said, oh, my goodness, both times in the left temple, and big bullets, they went out the back right. Mm-hmm. And I said, where do your migraines start and finish? And he said, holy shit. He says they start in the left front and come out and they travel. See, some people with migraines stay in one part, some travel. He has not had a migraine since 1997.
See, I get more sinus headaches than migraines, but that's because I broke my nose a long while back, and I don't know when it happened, but it happened in this life, of course. But
of course.
But they just never discovered it and never reset it. So doctor's like, no, as long as you can still breathe, you don't need the surgery.
It triggered something. It just means that also that your subconscious is not helping you heal totally because it's keeping the situation the same as, and I guarantee you it's from a past life. There's so many things. Like, for example, a lady came in once for a session, and she brought in her list, and as she came in, she was, going like this, clearing her throat. Mm-hmm. And after about 10 times or so, I said, how long have you been doing that? And she said, what? When you do this all your life, you don't really notice it. And she did say it did bug a lot of people. So I said, is it on your list? She said, well, obviously not, because she didn't think it was something that, had forgotten about. So I said, let's put that on the list. So when I went to that list, or that past life, it was a simple one. She had died in Pompeii. Remember that volcanic thing back? Yeah. And And most of the people, they've been finding their bodies still intact. They didn't die from the heat. They died from the dust, that fine ash, and they couldn't breathe. And when she saw that, and we let it go, as soon as I have you simply say it's a different life, I let it go, she wasn't coughing, and she couldn't get over it. Now, she had been doing this for most of her life. Now, that was not, but some stuff does get triggered in this life. It might be that, and I've had people that had like a fear of flying. This one lady, she's had many flights that never bothered her, but all of a sudden she had a flight with a lot of turbulence, and after that she has a fear of flying. Sure enough, it turned out it was to do with the past life, that she was in a vehicle that was going off a cliff and bouncing and stuff like that, and that was the motion, the movement, and stuff. But another interesting one too is Phil, is like hearing. I do occasionally have had people come in that said, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with me or anything. I just want to see what it's all about." Now, this has only happened maybe 10, 15 times out of thousands. But every single one of them, before we got started, after I chat with them for about 10 minutes, I have usually 5 to 7 things on their list. Things like one guy was cracking his knuckles while he was talking to me. I said, "How long have you been doing that?" And he says, "What? Cracking your knuckles is first of all, I can't stand that sound, because you're not doing anything good for your knuckles." Turned out, as a lot of them, he was being tortured in a past life for information that he didn't know, and they were cutting his fingers off. So all he was doing by cracking his knuckles was the subconscious reminding him that his fingers are still there. Okay, yeah. They're getting taken care of it. And there's so many different little odds and ends. Hearing and vision. A lot of people have a thing called tinnitus. Have you heard of that? And often it's one ear more than the other.
Yeah, I have that. I got like 10% disability for that from the military. Mm-hmm. The ringing in the ears.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's tinnitus. In fact, one of the causes is that if you're back in the old days, like Civil War, and you got those great big honking cannons, and your job was to put the powder down it, you often stayed on the same side of the cannon. Quite often, that's the ear that you have problems with in this life. Okay,
yeah. Well, I know mine's from being down in the engine room on the ship that I was stationed on. So I know I didn't have it before then, so it was just because of that. But of course, as a kid, I had swimmer's ear. Mm-hmm. Yeah, from popping and stuff like that. But again, these are things that trigger, because actually we are a healthy person. If we leave our subconscious alone, we'd actually be very, very, very healthy, because it's the one that affects our immune system. Like if you cut yourself, your conscious doesn't fix it, and you can say heal, but it's not going to work. But it's after a few days it does heal, because your subconscious fixes your body. If you'd leave it alone, we'd be good. But we hear too many things like, "Don't talk to Johnny, he's got a cold. If you do, you're going to catch that cold." You ever hear of stupid things like that? Yeah. Well, the power of suggestion. If you believe, your subconscious, Phil, has no right or wrong. All its job is to do what you tell it, or work off the repetition of the problems from past lives. So if you believe that you are going to catch that cold, it will lower your immune system so that you're more likely to get it. One of my medical doctor friends I work with, I've worked with 5 different male doctors. They know about the placebo effect and what have you. So one of them confirmed what I mentioned in talks, is that a lot of medical doctors, or the people taking doctor training, and some nurses, often, because they're studying so hard, get the symptoms of what they're studying. Yeah. He said he was studying rashes one time, and one morning woke up with not just a feeling of it, he could see the rash, and he realized how silly it was, and because of that, it was gone within a day or two. But the power of suggestion is quite strong. That's why we have these people called hypochondriacs. Yeah. I know many of them, if you got something wrong, they got it 10 times worse. It's called, unfortunately, attention.
Like, in fact, hypochondriacs learn quite young is that, like, Johnny, don't go to school, you got a cold. Well, Johnny doesn't like school, so you've rewarded him. He likes not going to school. So the subconscious says, let's keep him happy. How do we do that? Let's keep him sick, or at least feeling sick. And that's how it goes. Hypochondria is a sad attention. Wouldn't you rather get attention for not having problems?
Yeah. I wouldn't mind, but okay. But I want to mention we are at the break at the top of the hour, but when we come back, we'll open up the phone lines where you can ask my guests questions about past life, regression, and progression. We'll be right back.
Don't hold me back. God knows I've been through this before. I can taste it in the air, and it leaves me wanting more. You crossed me once, it's left a bitter taste, and now you push me, I will tear you down. If you're man enough to fight, if you're man enough to fall, what are you gonna do with your back against the wall?
Do you have a talk radio, Facebook Live, or YouTube show and would like guests for your show but don't know where to go to get them? Well, go to radioguestlist.com and sign up today. They have all different experts in different fields, and you can find the ones that are just right for your show. That's radioguestlist.com. Sign up today. It's free.
If you like finding out about different things in the paranormal field, such as ghost stories, haunted locations, UFOs, cryptozoology, and much more, well, check out Into the Paranormal on YouTube, and be sure to subscribe to the channel. Videos are posted once a week. Are you a ghost hunter or paranormal enthusiast and need equipment to go out and investigate locations that have spirit activity? Well, GhostStop.com has all the equipment that you will need. They have a Boo Buddy ghost hunting kit for $169.95, or how about a Keep Calm and Ghost Hunt t-shirt for $19.95. Click on the banner ad at the top of the Talking Tonight website and get shopping today. GhostStop.com, your one-stop shop for all your ghost hunting needs.
Without you here with me, but now I'm standing looking in the mirror, wondering whatever happened
to call into the show, Skype, Talk in the Night, or by phone at 817-717-5561. And now, back to Talk in the Night with your host, Paranormal Phil. Okay, and we are back with my guest, Chris Lee, and I'm going to let Chris finish up on the thing on the hearing and sight and everything like that before we take questions and calls. But the phone line is open. The chat room on Spreaker is open, so if you want to ask questions in the chat, you're welcome to do so. But I'm going to let Chris finish up on the hearing and sight thing.
Okay. The hearing, one of the most amazing, it's actually featured in one of the books, is to do with hearing, is that when I work with my clients, when I'm ready to do a session, I actually give you a set of headphones. And I actually have a small mic, and I actually put it through a mixer. Even though you're right in front of me, I send it through the mixer so I can add music. And also, I do get people with poor hearing, and also if they happen to be like, trains or planes or something going nearby, it doesn't get in your way, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And this one lady, I said, I always do a sound check, and there was background music. I like to keep it sort of low, but just something so there's no dead airspace. It's just like when you're on a phone and they business and they put you on hold and it's nothing, so you wonder if they hung up on you. Okay,
Yeah.
So I put dead airspace in there. Now she said, "What music?" So I went, So I said, "I'll turn it up a bit more." She said, "I don't hear anything." I said, "Turn it up 3 times. Finally, she says, "Okay, it does sound good now." And I said, "You have a problem with your hearing, don't you?" And she said, "Yeah." She hadn't mentioned it because people often just think it's a way of life where they got to, live with it. So I said, and this girl was about 35, and I said, "When did it first start?" And she said, "About 15. So 20 years she's had poor hearing. A lot of also, you'll probably might not notice or not, but if you do talk to someone with poor hearing, they really stare at you because they learn to read your lips a bit too. But anyhow, so I said, let's check that out. And just to make it shorter, is that she saw herself as a girl 15 in a farm with mom and dad, and it was the early 1900s, and it was out in the prairies. And it was, not a very nice house, a rundown house a bit, and farming sort of thing too. And what happened was there was a bunch of commotion, and mom had spotted a rat in the living room, and dad had gone and got his rifle. And the girl, she in that life was a girl, about 15, as I said. She was nosy, and she came around the corner to see what's going on. At the same time, Dad had fired the rifle, and it didn't hit her, but the noise deafened her for most of the rest of her life, more so on the left side. And then she started laughing. I said, "What are you laughing about?" She said, "In this life," she said, "I'm extremely nosy too." So what happened is that she saw that, and then I do a little thing. I just say to look at the life to see it's a different life. I let it go. She did that, and then she said, "Can you please turn the music down?"
Yeah.
Wow,
it went away and it got too loud.
It was too loud for her. But here, this is what I like about what I do feel, is that the reaction of people, like the look in their face, or moving parts they haven't moved for 5, 10, 20 years. But here was a woman, 20 years hearing, all of a sudden, just a matter of minutes of going through that, said, "Turn it down." And she said, yes, she was nosy. And just to finish how this whole thing works is that what I've found from doing this, again, it's like that, I'm not sure, but I know how to make use of it. But I have found from doing this with thousands of people that all these aches and pains are to do with lessons not finished. Yeah. Our body cells have memory. You actually hold many things. Like the only thing nice I've ever seen people hold is music. We always got a tune from the past. You go, "I remember that song," because it's always a nice feeling because it's triggered by the sound. But your aches and pains are held by memory, body cell memory. And the American Medical Association has just published stuff last year that I'm making use of. They've proven that people with organ transplants are picking up the traits of the people from the people that the organ came from. Guy didn't like pizza, loves pizza. Yeah, I just say make sure you don't get an organ from maybe a serial killer or something. Yeah. But what it's leading to here is that when we have a lesson and it's not finished out, just roughly, we pick a lesson to do. We actually have a soul group that you work with, and you all have different. Like I think you're like a play. You all got good guy, bad guy, because it's not a chick flick. And apparently, when we come into the human form, we don't know what our lesson is supposed to be, because it's just apparently the way the body works. Because also, how would you learn if you had the script in front of you? You would be like, "Oh, here's that one again." So I think now, when we die, sometimes we die too soon, or we just don't bother learning the lesson. Apparently, it doesn't go away. You have to finish the next life, and whatever ache or pain. For example, about 40% of the world out there are what I call have a turtleneck syndrome. Sort of a funny name I gave it. It means that they can't wear stuff around their neck or have people touch their neck. It's because they've been strangled, hung, or beheaded in a past life. They brought that with them, aches and pains. Once they see it, they let it go. So basically how the whole thing seems to work is lessons not finished.
Okay, so we're going to get into some questions here. I got some questions in the chat. First one is, can some people be hypnotized and some people can't? And why can't some people, and what could be the cause of that? And, of course, this person showed up late into the show, so he didn't hear about that part of the show, so I'll let you explain that.
Sure. Okay. Again, just to answer that question, hadn't heard it, is that hypnosis is all self-hypnosis. Nobody forces you to daydream. That's hypnosis. Nobody forces you to read a book or watch TV and ignore people because you just don't notice them. And nobody forces you to go to bed every night. All these are deep relaxation, which is what hypnosis is. Now, some people cannot relax. Some people feel guilty about relaxing. It depends on your upbringing. Like, you're not supposed to be watching TV. You're supposed to be doing your homework, or you're not supposed to be playing. You're supposed to be plowing the back 40. And that gets drummed into you. And when you become an adult, you're in charge, but you've got this still stuck in you, so you feel guilty about relaxing. Those people have a hard time relaxing. Again, because it's all voluntary, I can't look at you and say, relax. There's no way that I can look at you. I get people that think that I can look at them and make them go into hypnosis. What a load of bullshit. Excuse my French.
Yeah, it's like the stage hypnosis, like I was talking earlier.
Yeah, it's voluntary. Like a good example is like if I could do that, and hypnotize you. Well, wait a minute. You could go take a hypnosis course in a weekend, and you could do it. So you could all sit there and have battles back and forth. Get over it. Or why don't I go down to Las Vegas and make the dealer think I've got a winning hand every time? Or headlines. 6 more banks robbed by hypnotists. They made them give me the money. Well, you don't see that. That's a load of crap. It's all self-hypnosis. So when some people cannot be, it's just because either the person that they're working with, you have to have, like when I work with a client, they have to have a bit of trust and be a bit more relaxed. Like if you're not sure about something, it's all self-defense. You're not going to relax. Nobody can make you relax.
I've heard people say, even in the stage hypnosis, if you're not relaxed and everything like that, and you don't want to be hypnotized, you're not going to be hypnotized.
Yeah, like it's even that expression that can you hypnotize me? Nobody really hypnotize you. We just help you go into deep relaxation. What have you? You hypnotize yourself, but only with permission. So yes. In fact, I remember one time this big guy came in in his 30s, burly guy, and he come in, paid his fee to have a session, and he looked at me and he says, you know what? He says, 2 other people tried to hypnotize me and they couldn't do it. And I said, well, I'll be your 3rd one that can't do it because you don't want to relax. This isn't a battle. And I said to him, have you ever daydreamed? He says, all the time. I says, hey, daydreaming is hypnosis. The look on his face was, that's all it. The session worked fine after that. He got over himself. Yeah. It's like, I'm powerful. You can't make... Nobody can. It's all self-hypnosis.
All right. So Sorry. I was going to say, the next question is, can a person have their third eye open if they were hypnotized? And I'll kind of answer this a little bit, too, since I am a psychic and everything like that. And, of course, we were talking about this earlier, is meditation is key when opening your third eye to see like spirits and stuff like that. So you're basically being hypnotized there. You're hypnotizing yourself
into hypnosis
by relaxing yourself.
Perfect. Actually, I find interesting, again, I didn't grow up with a lot of like this metaphysical stuff that I now know all about, is that when we were kids in grade school, and I remember we used to figure out why you could take your finger and start going slowly towards one of your friends and aiming for their third eye spot. And you could sense it coming, but it wouldn't work on any other part of their face. We couldn't figure it out. We didn't know about the third eyes. And again, when I work with my clients, I don't see anything that they see. But I have found from doing a lot of this is that my third eye does come into effect a bit. When they're relaxing, I can feel it in my third eye. So I don't, when they think they're going to tell me that they're relaxed, I already know, sort of thing. Like, it's just, you feel it. And that's sort of like a little thing that helps me know when they're relaxing. So the third eye is quite interesting, yes.
Yeah, because see, like me, when I'll give you an example. I mean, I've taught people how to open up their third eye using meditation, but this is different since there was a woman that was hyper empath, or not hyper empath, but an empath that had the ability to see and spirits and feel their presence, their energy, and everything like that. And she went into this one home where had that darker energy there, and she came out sick or feeling physically ill. So, of course, knowing the work that I've done, the light worker that I am, that kind of work I've done, is I had her stand up, close her eyes, take a couple of deep breaths, and visualize the brightest white light that she could imagine. And of course, she felt instantly better within like a minute.
Grounding her. You were grounding her. Good.
Yeah.
I do hear of a lot of empaths that drive me nuts. In fact, I met my first ones in England. She says, I really help people get rid of this stuff, but she says, I'm sick all month. Now, first of all, we sort of said, you're not really a good advertisement for yourself that you can make people healthy by you being sick.
Yeah.
doesn't make it sound like it works well because you're sick with them. Because some people don't realize that you take it and then send it out. You don't hang on to it, sort of thing. Yes, there are people that see, as you remember, you talked to my wife, Debbie A. Anderson, some time ago. She's a clairvoyant medium, and she does see the dead energies. I don't. Not everybody does, but she's quite good at that.
Yeah.
Next question.
All right, let's see. What makes a person that has been hypnotized into a trance?
Sorry?
Okay, I guess the person, I'm trying to figure out how he's trying to word it and everything like that, but I guess when you're hypnotized, he's wondering what puts him in that trance state.
You're just slowing down. Just getting nice and just like you actually get into that automatically just before you go to sleep every night. Because you're slowing your conscious down. Your conscious is bouncing around. Remember, it's just a processor about 3 times faster than your subconscious. That's another reason why we have a hard time picking up memories, because it's like, remember when years ago when we were trying to learn how to drive a standard and you grind the gears because the speeds were wrong. So when you're starting to fall asleep, is that, yes, you go into that sort of state. And it's just, except with a hypnotherapist. In fact, when I work with a person, one of the things I do right at the beginning is I'll say to them, may I work with you? And they have to say yes or no. If they say no, I can't go any further. I can't make you slow down. I can't make you relax. But why did you come and see me? But when they say yes, it means your subconscious now knows. It's not like getting it permission. That doesn't work that way. It just means the subconscious knows that you want to go for, take care of your concerns, but it doesn't know how to. That's why my job is just to help your subconscious slow you down. Once I slow you down, then I talk to you. Now in hypnosis, I have to remind my people at the beginning is that I'll be asking you questions just like I'm talking to you before we start, and it's going to sound the same. The reason I mention that is because I remember one lady, she said, you took care of 5 of my problems. But she said, I don't really know if I was really in hypnosis. And I said to her, and I've said this, to a few others since then, what is it supposed to feel like? And they all have the same answer. I don't know. So my logic is, if you don't know what it's supposed to feel like, how do you know you weren't in it?
Yeah.
Because it's just that they think there's bells and whistles and they float away and all that kind of stuff. No, it doesn't happen. And one guy even said he took care of all my concerns, and then he leaned over, sort of like to whisper. You know what he said? He said, "I was here all the time." I said, "Yes, I watched you. You didn't leave."
Yeah.
They still think that it's magical. No, it's just like if you ever lose something. I learned years ago when I was younger, without even realizing I was going to get into this business, is that if I lost something, I would just lay down, take a big deep breath, eyes closed, and start picturing the beginning of the day, working my way slowly through. I remember where I left it. But if you start panicking, your conscious is actually speeding even faster, and it's not going to work. So I do find though it can't. Not to do it in restaurants, because after a while they want you to leave.
Yeah. I know you talked about earlier where you do the like speaking engagement in groups, but as far as the sessions, you do it one-on-one, and I find the same thing in doing readings for people. I've tried doing a reading on the show and everything like that for people, and as soon as I opened myself to the spirit world, every bit of those spirits came flooding in. It's like, I want to read it. I want to get my message. I want to get. It's like one at a time. So I can see how that could play a role in as far as what you do and stuff like that. You don't want to go out there and do all these people at the same time, because everybody's story, their past is going to be different.
Well, plus they all hear each other, and then it's not like they all don't hear each other, and then one person might be more interesting and they'll stop listening and listen to that one. But I found that when I'm doing a session, if anybody says, "Well, can so and so listen in or sit there?" Okay, it says, "Why waste your money?" We will never slow down enough, knowing that there's somebody standing there, just in case you might say something. Oh, maybe I was a serial killer and they'll think I'm terrible or distracting. No, I remind people it's not a spectator sport. It is a session. It's a session, and nobody sits in. The only time actually there's an exception. I do work with kids as young as 8. Well, actually, I did work with one 5, but I'll explain that in a moment. But 8, remember, see, our conscious and subconscious are together till about the age of 7 or 8. That's when the conscious starts going faster and starting using logic. Yeah. But if they're about 8, 9, 10, I do have usually a mother sitting there. Not necessarily for, they're going to be a bit more relaxed because they're still kind of a kid. But also when they start to explain stuff, I've had the parents go, quickly write down that part, that really is another thing that bothers him, and you got rid of it. But it's really funny is that whenever I think I've seen everything or handled every situation, I know within 3 or 4 days something new will pop up. It's almost like I should never say that because when they test me. So I actually this year had a grandmother get hold of me and said that the 5-year-old granddaughter has had nightmares all her life and doesn't tell her mom what they are because I think her mom was being killed in them, but she'd tell the grandma. And this was like every night. So I thought, well, I'll give it a try because I had never worked with somebody that young. What it was is that, yes, they have a short attention span. But what happened is that did the session, and that was in August this year, and the last time I talked to them, within 2 days her nightmares have stopped, and she's never had one since. So
let's get into another question from the listeners here.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Let me find it. I got to scroll up here. Now, I know you talked about this earlier in the show, but for anybody that might have tuned in late, does our fears and phobia, are they a result from our past life or death in our past lives?
Always. 99.9%. I don't want to say it's perfect, because occasionally a fear phobia can occur in a current life, but so far, let's say it this way, I'd say 1% of people's fears and phobias started in the current life. Here's a little thought. First of all, if you are a betting person of Phil. And let's say you have a fear of heights. And also in a session I can help, your subconscious will tell you how many past lives you've had. It's interesting. It always will give you the answer. And let's say you had 100 past lives. You're a betting person. What's the odds that your fear of heights started in this life? 100 to 1 it didn't. Yeah.
Pretty good chance that it is, but there are a chance that it's a really good chance that it happened from a past life.
Yeah, it's 100 to 1 it didn't, because there's 100 different chances that it started. But yes, our fears and phobias, sometimes they're triggered as you get older, sometimes we're born with them. Either way, is that therapy, facing your fears, remember I mentioned about the guy skydiving, does not work, still couldn't climb ladders, seeing where it came from. And that's all it takes, is seeing where it came. A real funny one, a woman had a fear of blimps. And in fact, like when she went to the football games with her friends, they would bug her because she couldn't stand looking at the big balloon that with the dirigible, or whatever you call it, with the cameras up there.
Because she was on like the Hindenburg.
No, not even close. That's what I love about what I do. Turned out she was a guy in his 30s living in the Mediterranean about 200 or 300 years ago, and he was fishing for a living, and he was out in his boat, and the water is fairly clear, and he was out there, and a whale came up underneath him, and came up, and not intentionally, but knocked the boat flying and him into the water, and he was afraid, and actually the whale was right there. He saw the eyeball, and it left. Didn't hurt him. All it was is that the size of it was similar to the dirigible. so she said her friends are annoyed now because they can't bug her at the football games. So sometimes you never know where it's going to come from, but it was a past life thing. Another one was deep water, but it turned out it was a guy in the 30s or something in the Tour de France racing on the bikes, and this guy was so far ahead that they couldn't see. He couldn't see the other bicyclists, the race coming up, from behind. A car came along and knocked him off his bicycle. And the road had a big brick wall along it. And I'm going, what's this got to do with deep water? And what happened was they knocked him out, grabbed him, threw him over the wall and his bicycle, and there was a river on the other side. Okay. So you never know what's going to happen. But now he said that's also why he says he doesn't like riding bicycles too. So little side things that happen from it. And he no longer has a fear of deep water. Heights, you can have a respect for heights, but you don't have to have it so that you can't even, climb. I've had a guy that couldn't go past the third step of a step ladder. That's how bad it was.
Wow.
Done. All gone. So yes, fears and phobias are past lives, yes.
All right, so we got 3 minutes before we go into the break. I wanted to ask this question because I got a ton of questions and I never got into a lot of them. But what is the difference between regression and progression?
Well, progression is going into the future.
All right, so
regression is
you
back.
can actually do hypnotize somebody to see their future life.
Yeah. What it's about is this way. See, like past, present, future go on all at the same time. You can blame Einstein for that one, Albert Einstein. And it seems to be the way it is. So when people say, what was my previous life? It could have been one that was 600 years ago, and the next one is 100, whatever. But I don't really have people pop up. I rarely have had a person come in and say, I want to go into the future. It's because they got too many aches and pains, fears and phobias, and these all come. But I've had a couple that did come from future, but it won't be in the next 20 years or something, because then you could maybe buy a lottery ticket or something. Doesn't work. Yeah. It's often hundreds of years.
It's like the thing I was talking about. Psychics were never ever going to be 100% right. Otherwise, we would. If we were, we would win the lotto every single time. It's just not going to happen.
No. Because your lesson is actually in this life not to be rich, it's to help people.
Yeah.
That's more likely. But yeah, so I do go, you can actually go in the future. But I've only maybe had a dozen times that went forward. People, again, don't come up to see me just for something to do. It's because of the concerns that they have. Even debilitating emotions. It's what I basically call stuck lives. is that in a session all that when we die, the body is just a vessel. It's actually, they've proven that the human body on its own, without our energy coming in, is no better than a robot, or I'm sorry, an ape. So think of it as a robot, and you plug in a computer. So when you die, you don't really die. When I take people through dying in a session, it hasn't changed. Just the body's gone. They're still there. You don't disappear. But when we die, we don't have to leave. Now, only part of our energy actually goes into a body because we've got so much energy, we don't have to have the full thing. So often strong emotions keep us from leaving, like revenge, or anger, confusion, am I really dead? That lost feeling, which a lot of people have. You ever get people with that sort of feel stuck, they don't know what to do? It's a stuck life.
I get plenty of spirits like that, like, what the heck am I doing here?
Yeah. And I can help them get rid of it. I've had people sit up straighter in their chair. One woman said she's got a great life going, but she wonders why she's always angry. Turned out it was a past life that had the anger, and I helped her get rid of it, take it home, and she just said, it's gone. Feels nice. So that's why a lot of therapy doesn't work with these people, because it's nothing to do with current life.
All right. Well, we're at the last break of the show, so we'll be right back with more with my guest Chrisley and more of your phone calls and questions for him. We'll be right back.
I just wanna know what's on your mind. What's on your mind? It's like 3 a.m. You're still on my mind. Let's not waste no time. Just tell me how you're feeling. You still have my heart, although we've been apart. Let's go back to the start. I think we're both too agree. See the tunnel light. It's never been so bright. I haven't lost the fight. You let me keep believing. You still give me chills. I do it for the thrill. Yeah, you still give me chills. Yeah, I feel like I tell you anything. A white lies compromise. Stop your ranger wings. Continue what we do.
During the week of November 12th through the 16th, Talk in the Night will honor all those that served in the military by having all the show's guests as veterans, Monday through Thursday, and with a special open line Friday where veterans can call in and share anything. Just for Talk in the Night listeners, when you go to Past Life Regression and Progression.com and mention Talk in the Night at purchase, you will receive 50% off of the books. Regular price $20 down to $10 plus mailing costs. Just go to Past Life Regression and Progression.com or click on the banner ad on the Talk in the Night website. On Friday night, one lucky listener will have a chance to win a copy of Antichrist, the Clone Image of Jesus Christ by Dr. Joy Pugh, the new updated 2017 edition. The winner must call into the show to win the book during the live open line broadcast.
Yeah, let's go. I ain't the first with the curse, with the thirst that I wanna be better, not worse, man, it hurts. I'm on this earth with my words and I put them all together, insert, cause I wanna have worth. Working hella hard till they put me in the dirt. Gonna go far, man, listen to my words. Gonna be a star, man, life's like a blur. When you're working this hard till you get what you deserve. Yeah, I ain't taking a backseat, I'm passing anybody else who is rapping. I'm nasty, ain't nobody able to catch me. They gasping, they cannot compare, they can't match me. I'm at half speed, I got your girl and she laughing and dancing.
To call into the show, Skype Talk in the Night, or by phone at 817-717-5561. And now, back to Talk in the Night with your host, Paranormal Phil. Okay, and we are back in the last half hour of the show, and the phone lines are open. The number to call in is by Skype, Talking the Night, or by phone at 817-717-5561. Also in the Spreaker chat, I got people in there. I interact with the guests. If you want to type in your question there, feel free to ask away any question that you like, and I'll relay that to them if you type it in the chat. But like I said, the phone lines are open. Now, let's get into another question I had, and I want to get this done before we get off the air, is, now, when you do these sessions, do they have to be in person, or can they do like a video chat or a call?
Mm-hmm. Okay, good question. Most of my stuff I do live. I do a lot of touring and that type of thing. But I do Skype sessions. I love Skype. Skype's one time Skype used to drop a bit, but since Microsoft bought it, it's a lot better. And in fact, interesting is that from where I am, I'm just not far from Detroit. I'm in Canada. Is that in the last couple of months, I've had a lot of referrals from people in the States. Started with a lady in Canada, actually, part of a group of people taking mediumship training or and go to workshops. And I had helped this lady. So next thing you know, I get a email from a lady in California, end up doing sessions, who passed it on to a lady in Texas, actually, North Dakota, Colorado. So I've been doing a lot of them. So obviously I'm not going to be running around the country just for one session. But yes, Yet, I just had two people come to my office from Toronto, and it's a 4-hour drive, the two of them. And, so that people do travel if they want to get rid of, well, one's got addictions, and it's past life. Same thing as smoking. Smoking is actually an addiction. It's, again, see the past lives, they stop.
Yeah, that's one addiction that I do have, is smoking and everything like that. Which I was actually able to quit drinking. I was actually sober for 17 years. And then I realized that, okay, now I can drink maybe 1 or 2 beers and I'll be fine, and I don't have to do it. Because I used to drink heavily while I was in the Navy. I would be drinking hard liquor. I could... of course, it goes back to my Irish, German, Irish, Scottish, English... roots and everything like that, where I love to drink, but I could down a whole bottle of tequila and still not be drunk. But what happened is my dad got in an accident while driving drunk, and I said, that's enough. I'll cut down slowly until I quit. And like I said, I was sober for 17 years, and then I think it was probably 3 or 4 years ago, I realized, okay, I can do this to where I don't need to have all that alcohol. I can have maybe 1 or 2 beers and I'm good.
Yeah, a glass of wine or something. No.
All right.
But there are some people like speaking of smoking, like back in the olden days, everybody smoked. My mom and dad, all 4 of us boys, it was everybody smoked. It was sort of like people like to be one of the crowd, accepted, so everybody smoked. In fact, people looked at you odd if you didn't. But now, roughly speaking, the stats out for smokers, it's about 20%, and that's not the majority. Those ones are I help because it's past life. So one of them was, this one guy said, I have the right to smoke. I just feel it. I don't know why. Turned out, and it was one of the more common ones, he was a Native Indian elder. And back in those days, to be an elder was very prestigious, an honor. But they had to pass the pipe around. And he said he couldn't stand it, but he had earned the right. So, and then as soon as he realized where it came from, he said, he just quit. He said, I don't feel the right anymore. So there's lots of things. But it's a past life. And again, it's why they could pain. I had, again, the aspirin sort of headache. I've actually had a lady come in one time on the road, and I'd been to the doctor. She came into the session, or came for a session, first session of the day, blah, blah. And what happened was she had lower back pain, which is very common. And I usually like to try and take care of that pain pretty quickly because people often can't sit for 2 hours in a session comfortably. And so she had said, I got lower back pain. I says, okay. And then she says, my husband sent me. And I said, oh, that's interesting. And she said, he's a chiropractor. And I looked at her like, wow. I said, why did he send you here? And he says, well, last year when you came through, he sent a male client who he couldn't fix the lower back, and I fixed it. Didn't realize I was being tested there. So he said, she get mixed up. She said that he felt that it was okay for her to come and see me, and I took care of her back problem too. Chiropractor is a good trade. I got a frozen shoulder taken care of by one. They do help, but this was a past life thing. In fact, again, the aspirin for the headache. The only big word I ever bothered to learn, people come in with their ailment they've had for 20 years, and it's like 37 letters long, and I got blah, 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 and I go, speak English. Oh, a pain in the butt. Okay. Subconscious doesn't care. And if you have pain in the back, I don't care which C1, C2, who cares? I just need to know lower, middle, or upper. The only big word I've ever bothered to learn was fibromyalgia. Because so many people come in with it. I've had over 200 clients come in, and none of them have it anymore. Two of my doctor friends laughed when I told them about that, and they said they know it's not something they can test to find. It would be a pain, and that they just know it's a past. They know it's a past life, but they can't quite say that. So they came up with fibromyalgia years ago, and that way people feel better that at least they got a name for it. No cure.
I got a friend that suffers from that, and some days the pain's unbearable. I'm gonna give her your information and. Maybe she could get some help there.
Yeah. Well, have her the way to get hold of me is my email address is simple. It's CL, which stands for Chris Lee, at pastliferap.com. Like I shortened it up, the full website is Past Life Regression and Progression. Well, Regression and Progression, the letters are RAP, R-A-P. So I made it shorter so that you don't have to spell all those words. So pastliferap. RAP.com, and CL at that gets to me. So what happened was that get in touch with me, and I'll send information on how that works. But yeah, aches and pains. One guy another interesting thing, real quickly, if you don't have a question there, is that when your body cells are duplicating the pain you had from a past life, if it's not hurting enough by tightening it up, it actually puts bones out of joint, out of alignment, and that makes it hurt more, so that it's similar. It has to, for some reason, it just feels it has to do that. So one fella, lower back, when we saw what life it came from, I says, now move your back around. He's sitting in a chair, and he said, did you hear that? And wow, did I hear a crack? And when we finished the session, he stood up, and he was about 3 inches taller, and he said, I haven't stood this straight in 12 years. And another quick one, a woman that came in, fibromyalgia is really just not real. Well, most arthritis is not. It's also past life. Just your body, from not moving those joints around, does get that, maybe swellings or stuff. This lady came in, both hands. For 6 years, her hands are hurting bad, her fingers, hands, and she could hardly really use them. Turned out what it was, past life, she had been in a dungeon, which causes a lot of our problems, and they had smashed her fingers with a hammer to torture her. So when she saw that, then I said, move your hands now. Now this was interesting. You remember Rice Krispie? Snap, crackle, pop. Yeah. She said it's like a Rice Krispie commercial. She was moving her hands, and they were going pop, 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 pop. Then slowly they stopped, and her fingers were moving fine. And it would help because they were out of joint from being held to simulate the pain from that life. A lesson not finished, done. So, and a lot of our arthritic things in the wrists and ankles are often from the chains from being in dungeons. My fourth book coming in is going to be a little bit more not for the faint of heart. It's going to be on sections of people from dungeons, what happened to them, World War II concentration camps, serial killers, that type of thing.
Yeah, and
But
that's what I wanted to get into because we only got 15 minutes left in the show. As I wanted to talk about your book series, Life in the Past Lane, and how many books are and what the titles of those books are.
Yeah. Well, the first one is the biggest one. It was called Life in the Past Lane, as I said. Now, I didn't realize how many case history I had, and I thought I was only going to write one book. Well, the first two books, the second one was Fears and Phobias. It's called Life in the Past Lane, Fears and Phobias. It was actually all done. Did both books at the same time because they wouldn't fit. It was just way too big. So that's when I started to split them up a bit. So the third one is Life in the Past Lane, Aches and Pains. And these, again, are great case histories. People go, wow, I got that thing, and it does work, blah, 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 that kind of thing. It's better to sometimes be third party rather than you saying you should do this. It's better to say, I know somebody that did something just like you, had something just like you. That's third party. People seem to listen to it better. But the fourth, fifth, and sixth, fourth is now, it's called Crimes Against Humanity. And then the fifth one is actually going to be called History, Fact or Fiction. I've got over 16 people that have been on the Titanic. I've had many people that have been in Knights Templars or in Jesus Christ time and had seen them, and there's a lot of them. And some of the stories that they have are not quite the same as history books, and some of them make more sense. So that's coming up. And the last one is actually just stuck lives. The amount of people that have had stuck lives and why they were stuck is fascinating too. And that now the 4 and 5 will be coming out this winter while I'm in a warmer place for the winter soon. So that's where they're coming out. Now the books are available. Now remember I gave you a deal there. They're normally $20 each. And what happened, if you mention the show, then it's 50% off, but they still have to charge you for shipping or mailing. And so if you're, how much it costs to mail, I don't know. It depends how many. If you buy 3 or 4, then it's not as much as one each. So what people do is just have them just say how many. If you want all 3 of them, then I'll tell them the cost of the shipping.
Yeah, and people can click on the link up on the Talk of the Night website under your banner ad, and it'll take it right to your website and everything. Mm-hmm. All right. Now, what are, because I've looked at your website and everything like that, what are some of the services you offer and some of the other products that you have?
Okay. What it is that I do have downloadable meditations. Now, for years we did CDs, and when I went on tour, it was sort of like a side thing, and I saw like hundreds of them. But people don't do CDs much anymore, so I still have them as downloadable. Those actually are written by my wife, other than the relaxation one, but I narrated them because she said I had a better boring voice than hers. So that's why I do the services. Is to get hold of me to see. What I do is that when I do a session with people, I need you to see come to my talk or get the video of my talk. It's incorporated that you get it back during the session, but it's going to make your session work a lot better, because basically relaxation means that you're not going, why is he saying this? What's he doing that for? How come he's saying this? That means the session's not going to work well. You're doing too much thinking. So if you see the talk or be to my talk or the video, it explains everything, and then when I do a session with you, it just rolls and you get more done. So that's the part of the service, and the books through that too. The books, I used to have the when you click on it and you get the shopping cart thing, it kept getting screwed up. So if you want one of the books, it'll give you the email address and just email me, and then I do them personally, and I sign them too.
All right.
If you
now, also on your website, I noticed there was like testimonials from people.
Mm-hmm.
Give us a few examples of what people have said of your work.
Well, one of the biggest ones is interesting is to do with herpes. I'm sure you've heard of that word. Herpes basically is called non-curable. And this one lady in one of the provinces in Canada, now apparently 8% of people with herpes have the pain all the time. We're talking about vaginal herpes, genital herpes. And she, for about 10, 11 years, had been taking pills daily. Often makes her feel like she's going to throw up, but at least she can function better. And it wasn't cheap either. Many, and like I said, continually, where some it just pops up once in a while. And what happened was she wanted to find out about that one. Took her to the past life. To make it short, something had happened to her in a past life that was not very nice, and it was guilt that was dragged along. And she actually, it was really amazing. I didn't even realize how well this had worked with her, because out of the blue, about 2 months later, she sent me a letter to say that she had weaned herself off her medicine after these 8 years, or whatever years she's been taking it. But she wanted to wait a little while to make sure she could come off it. And this was 4 or 5 years in the pain, just occasionally, but almost never comes back. And that's one of the testimonials in there. But I've got, unfortunately, tons more to put in. One thing I didn't mention is that if you look on there, you'll see I have a team. What it is about once or twice a year, I train people. I get people that say, I want to do what you do. And they do this after they've had a session with me, of course, to see what it's about and how well it works. And you don't have to have any special training to do what I do. You just want to help people. And I will sort of chat with you first to get a better idea, because I did have one person that her voice went, if it was just a pinch higher, the dogs would have come kind of mean, but her voice was too high. I guess it was not a bad joke, but you don't have a calming voice if it's really, really high. But I'll check that. But the whole thing is it is a training period. I'm actually doing one because a lot of these American ones I just did lately, most of them want to take the training. So I am having a training session going in April this next year in Windsor, just across from Detroit. It's 6 days, but it's long, like there's 10, 12-hour days, but you'll be able to handle it. And then there's some practicum where you do have to do some work, and then I do watch you a couple times on Skype before you get certified. But again, you can make a career from what I do, as long as you know people with aches, pains, fears, and phobias, and debilitating emotions. And I'm sure we all do, don't we?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned about herpes real quick, because I want to get this question is like stuff like diseases. Could those be from past life or something like that, and can they be cured from hypnotism?
Yeah. Well, I eliminate them. There are some things, like herpes apparently is a permanent thing, but at least I eliminated it so that it almost never bothers her, sort of thing. But there's a lot of stuff. Allergies are past life, asthmas, there's what do you call it? Adenoids, or what do you call those things in your throat? My mind just gone. It's late.
Like tonsillitis. Trying to think.
Yeah, but either way, a lot of those are just from getting killed for what you spoke about in past lives. And allergies, they're again past lives. One woman, real quick, we've got time here, I think. One woman had...
A couple minutes.
Okay, this one lady came, she said she had an allergy to almost everything. This was fascinating, because it's in the book, coming up in one of them, is that she went back to caveman days. Now, I've got about at least 25, 30 people that have gone back to caveman days. I don't say go to caveman. It just turned out that's where it came from. Yeah. She saw herself as a female, dressed in furs, in a cave, dying, and there was about 20 bodies around her. Part of a tribe or something. She was one of the last ones. Mm-hmm. What it was is that it was to do with the Ice Age. Remember, you've heard of the Ice Ages. Well, when the Ice Age came, it froze everything. And what happened was that it was slowly starting to melt and defrost, and the new cave people somehow, don't know where they came from, but they're there. What happened was that they didn't have a good example is this way. When the Europeans came to North America, they brought along typhoid fever, and a lot of the natives, apparently thousands and thousands of natives died because they had no immunity to it. Yeah. So this is what this happened was this cave group clan, the ice was melting. There was stuff in the diseases or whatever. Animals would eat it, and then they ate the animals, and they were getting killed because they had no immunity. So and everything. So that was where she got allergies for everything. And last I heard, she's fine now. But it's an interesting thing where you never know where it's going to come from.
Yeah. All right. I want to thank you again for coming on the show. It was a great time talking with you and everything like that. People in the chat room really enjoyed the show and everything like that. They got a lot of helpful information out of it and everything like that. So for those listening, tomorrow night I am doing a Mystery Door episode, so anybody can call in, or maybe just nobody. Don't know where the show's going to go, but we're going to go there.
Sounds good.
Love a chance to challenge myself at things like that. And this is the first time I've ever done it, so it's going to be interesting. Also, next week on the show, like I said, it's going to be strictly veterans on the show, talking about veteran issues such as VA home loans for veterans, somebody that's a business owner that's going to talk about how to start a business, which could help people that are not veterans. Let's see, I got author. Let's see, I'm trying to remember the name of the book. I think it's Welcome to the People's Garden, and no, it's not about somebody growing people. And so much more. And then, of course, Friday night of next week, it'll be special open lines where veterans can call in and share just about anything. It's a whole part of Veterans Day week, which is on Sunday. Veterans Day is on Sunday. And, of course, as a veteran myself, I want to get that word out there to help other veterans that might be wondering about this stuff. Also, real quick, again, Chris, you want to give out the information where people can get the books, find out about the sessions, and everything.
Yep. Just email me at Chris Lee, CL, at pastliferap.com. And that's about the books, training, sessions, and I'll get my answer usually quite quickly. Good. Thank you very much, Phil.
Yeah. Again, pleasure having you on the show. And for those listening to the show, like I said, tomorrow night is a Mystery Door. So if you got a certain topic that you want to call in about and talk the whole 2 hours about, I welcome it. Just don't tell me you're going to call, because I don't want to prepare for it. I want to, like a psychic that I am, when I go into a location, I don't want to know anything of the location. I want to let my abilities sense what's going on in there and everything like that. So I want to test that ability to be able to do the show without knowing what the heck is going on. So till tomorrow night when we have Mystery Door show, thank you and have a good night. I'll see you on the dark side. Good night from Talking the Night.